Hi guys, welcome back to Future Dimensions 360. As you know, in our last tutorial, we are learning about use reducer hook. We had learned a very basic example of use reducer hook with the help of a simple counter example. What we have done here is we had taken a normal initial state with the numeric value and we had incremented it with 1 and decremented it by 1 as well. So in our current tutorial, what we will be doing, we will be learning use reducer hook with objects. Instead of numeric or static string values, we will be passing an object and you guys will learn how it will help you to handle multiple scenarios efficiently while passing objects to your use reducer hook. Let's go ahead and try to implement objects in use reducer hook. First of all, what I have to do here is I have to change the action parameter from type string to object. So how I can change it to object? I will say what action I want, just keep the name as type. So change it to object. Similarly, I will pass the same one to decrement and reset also. So it's just an object now. And here instead of action dot action normal action, I will be just passing as action dot type. Why I did that? The the main reason for doing that is we need, for example, I want, for example, just keep an example, we are increment this value, we are doing increment by 1 and decrement by 1. In case we want to increment by 5 and decrement by 5, what we have to do here, for example, so what we have to do here is we have increment decrement operation already there in that one. So and whenever increment is coming, we are hard codedly doing one increment, and whenever decrement is coming, hard codedly we are decrementing it by one. We have to make it dynamic. For that one, now in this scenario, I am passing it as an object. So object should contain an unlimited number of keys. Any type of attribute I want to pass, I can pass it. So why not, instead of adding this plus one hard codedly, I should pass it the value as dynamic. So for example, I will say when increment is clicked, pass the value of 1. When for example decrement is clicked, pass the value of 1. When increment by 5 is clicked, pass the value of 5. When decrement by 5 is clicked, pass the value of 5. So this is true. I can pass the values in this object. So what I have to do here is, instead of passing this value hard codedly, I have to change it to dynamic values that I am passing from the button event listener to dispatch function or dispatch method. So in this scenario, I will be incrementing my counter plus 1 minus 1 plus 5 minus 5. You guys can see how I had achieved multiple functionalities or multiple increment and decrement methods or actions I am performing by using objects in dispatch method. Let's go ahead to our browser and see, for example, incremented counter 1, decrement had decremented the counter 1, increment by 5 had incremented the counter 5 times, and decrement has removed the counter 5 times. If I click on minus and reset, as work as expected to, counter is set back to 0. This is how you can change your action parameter from normal string value to object. Let's see if I can change the state to object also, how it will work. For example, in the same counter, what I want here is I want the first one will be counter 1 and the second one will be counter. For example, I can say the first one will be first counter and the second one will be second counter. So I want two counters in my project now. So what I have to do here is I have to change this value to object also to handle multiple counters. For example, I can say first counter to 0, and for example, I can say second counter to 10. The initial value for the second counter, I kept it as 10. So when I change this to object, what I have to do here is I have to return here an object also, and here I have to return an object as well. So here when I am returning the object, I have to spread my previous state, as you guys know by how to use spread operators to merge the state, and here I can say this is the first counter. Similarly, I will copy paste it and just change the symbol to minus. I have to separate the state in decrement also, and what I have to do here is first counter I will just decrement it. And same as it is, I will pass two more cases that will allow me to change increment 2 and decrement 2. That will allow me to change second counter. So in this way, we can change second counter as well by passing increment 2 and decrement 2 method. Just increment 2 and decrement 2 method to our, you can say, to our dispatch method. Let me wrap my buttons, these four buttons for first counter in first div. Similarly, I will just wrap the same buttons to the second div, but here I will be passing to 2. For example, I will say increment 2 I can say here, decrement also 2, increment 2 by 5 and decrement 2 by 5. Let's hit save and go to our browser. You guys can see, very sorry, what is happening here. I forgot to add here counter dot first counter and counter dot second counter because its counter is an object now. So let's reload the project. And for example, if I'll click increment, the first counter is changed. For example, object plus 1 is appearing. What I have to do here is current state dot I have to do first counter here, and in that one I am incrementing also first counter. In this one I am incrementing second counter, and here I am incrementing the second counter as well. Very sorry, I forgot about it. Just reload it. Now you can see I am incrementing the counter. The first counter is getting incremented. As soon as I'm decrementing, the first counter value changed to decrements, increment by 5 and decrement by 5 also. Now, as soon as I'm clicking on counter 2, I'm able to increment the second counter. As soon as I'm clicking on decrement, I am changing the value for the second counter. As soon as I'm clicking plus 5 and minus 5, all things work as expected. Similarly, reset as well. This is how you can deal with the you can say with the objects in use reducer hook. This is the way. So the people or the viewers who have knowledge about Redux, you guys can see our code is much similar to Redux now. The reducer function is much similar to Redux now. We are passing an object as an action. Our state is also an action now. An object also, state is also an object. So the code is much similar to now Redux. I hope you guys understand it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. See you in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.